Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in. The Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football here on a Friday, January the 6th. That's right. We're ready to kick this one off, get you into the weekend. We're here weekdays at 1 o'clock talking about the latest in Michigan sports. You can probably guess what we're going to be talking about today. But I won't leave you out there guessing and hanging for too long because we want to get right into it. We always want to hear from you. And it's been an eventful 24 hours. Michigan has received a notice of allegations from the NCAA. We are on the eve of round one of Michigan in Michigan State basketball for the 22-23 season. They'll play 2 times for sure. They could play 3. Heck, they could play 4 times this year, but they'll play for sure tomorrow. Up at East Lansing. We'll dive into that basketball game a little bit, but we're going to start with Jim Harbaugh. And Jim Harbaugh has added another statement after everything that we were talking about yesterday. And Jim Harbaugh in the Michigan football Twitter, they put a statement out, another statement about Jim Harbaugh staying around. And the statement, you see, I got the picture up on the screen of Jim Harbaugh looking skyward. And then attached to the picture below were 2 paragraphs. And then those who stay will be champions in bold and bigger letters than everything and then anything else that was there in the body of the 2 paragraphs. And then the Jim Harbaugh autograph at the bottom, which I left yesterday's show with Jim Harbaugh signing his autograph. But let's read what Jim Harbaugh had to say on the Twitter page yesterday. I'll read it for you. I was watching the Good Afternoon Michigan football show with Dennis Fithian, and Fithian, no, that's not what he said. Here's really what he said. I'll quote the Twitter page. I am aware of the rumors and speculation over the past few days. College and NFL teams have great interest in all our personnel, from players to coaches to staff, and I truly believe that is a testament to the strength of our University of Michigan football program. As I stated in December, while no one knows what the future holds, I expect that I will be enthusiastically coaching Michigan in 2023. I have spoken with President Santa Ono and Athletic Director Ward Manuel and appreciate their support of me and our program. Our mission as Wolverines continues, and we are preparing for the 2023 season with great passion and enthusiasm. As our legendary coach Bo Schembechler said, those who stay will be champions. So that's what Harbaugh had to say, and, I saw that, and there were some. There's always going to be, some detectives out there, some people, breaking it down. That didn't quite like that statement. Remember, I was really wanted a statement from Harbaugh, and I like this one. Now, in this second paragraph, it can always be better, right? So if he would have sent this over to me, I would have said, "Hey, Jim, why don't we just go ahead and cross this first line out and start it right here." I will be enthusiastically coaching Michigan in 2023. I didn't need, as I stated, or while no one knows the future, I expect, but he's been putting the no one knows what the future holds line in there. I mean, that's his thing right now. And, I would have sent it back and said, "Hey, Jim, how about you say, hey, like I told you last year, it was a one-time deal. I expect, or I will enthusiastically be coaching Michigan. I am 100% in. Unequivocally, I'll be coaching Michigan in 2023. I could have said that. Now people would have said, well, that was too strong. I don't know what they would have said. I like this. And for all of, the naysayers, even to this one, are like, oh, he's got outs galore there. Okay. If you know Michigan, and you're watching this, Michigan, and Jim Harbaugh, And what you know about Jim Harbaugh is that he's not going to put those who stay will be champions with his name at the bottom and then be trying to run some kind of game on Michigan here. This is Jim Harbaugh saying, the best that he could do. He didn't send it to me, which, I don't know why he doesn't do that. I'll do it for free of charge. But he did put those who stay will be champions and put his name on there. He is not going anywhere. Now, yesterday, when I was saying that I had a bad feeling that he was going to go to the pros because it just kept playing out, a lot of it had to do with this NCAA probe or investigation. And that may be what gave Harbaugh some pause when he came out with that weak statement on Tuesday about, I think I'll be coaching next year. I was like, whoa, it was better than nothing, but it was still like, and those were the extenuating circumstances that I was talking about. When you got the NCAA in there and you're thinking, I'm thinking like, well, maybe Jim Harbaugh, has had it with the NCAA and he is going to, he's just going to take his game or take his talents to the NFL and forget dealing with it. But it does not look like that is the conclusion that he came up with. He is going to deal with the NCAA and he's going to be back at Michigan for 23. For me, I think that is a lot of the bottom line when it comes down to where we're at right here. If you didn't see, and some people, you're good at, reading comprehension, putting it all together. When you start getting into NCAA and you start reading some of these things, it doesn't take long where it's like, can I just get to the brass tacks of things? So I try to boil it down as much as I can for you. So here are the facts. And I think this is really all that you have to know. Michigan is under investigation for rules violations. Jim Harbaugh is being investigated for a level 1 violation for misleading investigators. I'll get into that a little bit more, and I'll speculate on what that is all about. The football program as a whole is being investigated for 4 level 2 violations. Those aren't very serious. Last night people were like, these are minor violations, and then there were a few. ESPN was one that said, it's a major issue. The Detroit News put something out there. There's a major violation. And people were like, what are you talking about? Major violations? Well, Harbaugh put himself into this situation where it became this level 1 type situation. And what could happen, you could get punishment for Harbaugh for this level 1. It could include recruiting restrictions as well as a potential suspension. You don't want that, but that's what level 1 is. And that is serious. Recruiting restrictions, depending on what that is, and being suspended. Like it probably wouldn't be for this upcoming year, but it could be. But, what if Harbaugh had to sit out for the UNLV and or Bowling Green game? I think Michigan would be fine. It would be more of an embarrassing situation for Harbaugh there, and it would be a story. And it'd be negative, and people don't like that. Instead of talking about the game and the team and where they've been, it would be all about Harbaugh is suspended for his pushback or whatever it is on the NCAA. But we'll see. It might play out even to the season where we don't know about that. The level 2 violations: too many coaches at practice. You had the analyst who can't be on the field coaching. And according to the reports, met with 2 recruits during the COVID dead period, and then they watched player workouts over a video feed. Now, look, Michigan, according to these reports, self-reported on these. And when it came down to the potential, when it came down to the big part of this level 1, it was Jim Harbaugh and how he worked with the NCAA and how cooperative he was. People have said that he was lied, that he misled, or that he didn't cooperate. I'm going to go with door number 3 on that Jim Harbaugh didn't cooperate. And I'll give you a scenario of how I think it played out. Now, if you want to know all about this, NCAA, Michigan's roster, recruiting, and everything else, I tell you every day, But I'm going to tell you one more time again today. If you want to be in tune with Michigan in this new year, join up with the Maize and Blue Review. You go to michigan.rivals.com and you can know everything that there is to know about the Wolverines. Subscribe to the Maize and Blue Review, michigan.rivals.com. It is as easy as that, and we will see you there. Now, a couple things, and we'll take your feedback, and we'll read some of your comments to see where you are at with this. I think these are some of the things that people are wondering. I'll answer the questions myself. As I asked them, could Harbaugh still head to the NFL after all of this? I don't think so. Sure, he could, but I think that, the timing of all this, the eve of the allegation letters being sent in, Harbaugh signing his name and saying he would be back, underneath those would be champions. He has decided to come back. And I think there was some worry. Obviously, I was worried yesterday, but I think that he came to that, whether he had already come to that conclusion or came to the conclusion yesterday and put the statement out and everything else. I think he's good about coming back and coaching Michigan next year. Now, this NCAA investigation is going to take a long time. I've seen some different timetables and everything else. So it's not like next week you're going to know what's going on, or next month, or this winter. I think, it could go into the summer, late spring before they come to a conclusion. Maybe it'll even be longer than that. Who knows? It depends if Michigan accepts what's going on or if they want to fight it or whatever else. But I've put what I thought were the best and worst case scenarios when it comes down to this NCAA investigation. I think the best case scenario is that Harbaugh does not get suspended and U of M gets a slap on the wrist, like some kind of reduction in visits or something with recruiting, or nothing at all. That they get a sternly written warning. Jim, you didn't cooperate. This would have been a level 1 violation. You better listen to the NCAA. We're serious. And that's why we, went through with all of this, whatever. But nothing happens. Nothing happens. A warning. The worst case scenario is that Harbaugh gets suspended for a game or two and U of M gets a scholarship or two taken away. I don't think that there could be anything worse than what I have written down there or what I just said. But that's the way that I see it. The best and worst case scenario. Now, let me take some feedback. And before I do that, though, let me just tell you how I think that it went down. So Michigan had these secondary violations, which, you don't want violations. You have to know what you're doing. You self-report when you screw up. You send a tweet out. You got a coach over here. Those kind of things happen. You don't want them to. You want to dot your I's and cross your T's, but they are going to happen. But an important part is you self-report and you send it to the NCAA. Now, when it came down to Jim Harbaugh and the number 1 violation that we're talking about, level 1, is that I think you take these secondary violations, and then it came to Jim Harbaugh. And Jim Harbaugh, with the NCAA, I think it worked out a little bit like this. When they say he didn't cooperate or misled them, that is going to get you into hot water. You can't just, treat the NCAA like they're reporters or something like that. They have some power. And I know that, nobody likes the NCAA. And, we all say that they're a joke, and, but they do have some power. And in this case, they do. And like I said, when you've seen the stories where Harbaugh has lied to the NCAA, Harbaugh has misled the NCAA, Harbaugh didn't cooperate with the NCAA. And I think the did not cooperate got him this this level 1 hot water that he's in. And I think it went something as easy or similar to this. The NCAA calls up Jim Harbaugh and says, "Hey, Jim, this is the NCAA. We want to know we want your cooperation. We want to know about this analyst coaching at practice. What can you tell us about that?" I think Jim Harbaugh said, "Yeah, I'll tell you about that. But I want you to tell me about the USC situation where they were able to pry the best wide receiver in the country who wasn't even in the transfer portal. And then it was talked about getting millions of dollars to go to USC. And then he went into the transfer portal the next week. And then guess what? He went to USC. How about that, NCAA? And NCAA said, look, Jim, we're here to talk about the secondary rules violations. Let's start this again. Jim, you, during the pandemic, had a meeting with 2 recruits. What can you tell us about that? And I think Jim said, you know what? Before we talk about any kind of pandemic meeting or anything else, how about you tell me what you're going to do about this 5-star that recently was offered up a couple $1 million by Ohio State, but he said he wanted to get more money from Georgia, and that's where he's going to go with the dogs. What are you going to do about that? And I think the NCAA said, look, Jim, now I know we're here to talk about these secondary rules violations. You were watching the workouts of some recruits via Zoom, which is against the rules. And I think, can you tell us about that? And I think Jim Harbaugh hung up the phone on him. And I think the NCAA was like, hello, Jim, he's not cooperating with us. And these guys all sat around and said, this guy is, he's not being cooperative. Not being cooperative at all. I don't think they said, well, Jim Harbaugh's got a point. I think they said, let's slap him with a level 1. Let's see what he thinks about that. And then I think they slapped him with a level 1. Now, that's how I think it went down. That's how I have thought about the situation. And that's what I think and how it all played out. Could be. Now, let's see what the people are saying and what they're thinking about this situation. Count 22 says the NCAA is a joke. Teams tamper with kids in season with $1 million bribes, and they're going after Michigan for some Zoom workouts. Well, I think there's some truth in that, account 22. Here's what we know about the NCAA. They are unable to do anything about the teams paying players. And they know it, but they haven't been able to get after them and do anything, even when it looks like it's, it would be easy to get in there and investigate, or at least kind of get after them a little bit, make it more difficult. They have looked the other way. So you could say the NCAA is a joke, but what does that have to do with Michigan? So in Michigan's mad about that. Jim Harbaugh is mad. That's why I think he is in the hot water that he is. Jim Harbaugh is saying just what you are. It's like, you're coming after us for these small potatoes when these guys are paying. And the NCAA is like, look, we know what's happening, but what can we do? And I don't know what Jim Harbaugh said to them. But we have talked about this since it happened. And I don't know what they're going to do. And I don't know how they catch him. They had trouble before catching players. Hey, Jimmy. Or no, let's not use Jimmy. Hey, Fred, did you take $100,000 to go to state? Fred, no. What are you going to do? You going to put a wiretap on there, or check his account? Because, if they were just on the phone and then when he goes to school and he gets that $100,000 in his bank, he's getting it from a booster. I don't really know how they catch him. And the NCAA really doesn't want to do anything about it. They want all that to go away. And the fans don't care. They're seeing that the players are paid. That's why even previous to name, image, and likeness, I always thought, you should pay them anyways. Nobody cares. Everybody wants the players to get paid anyways. They're getting paid anyways. So let's just have at it. And so now the little technicality about, agreeing to it before you actually pay them, people don't care. And they can't stop it. So I don't know what Michigan can do. Michigan can stand up. This is the hill that they have wanted to die on. They've elected to die on, I'm sorry. And that's what's happening. Even Keel Jason says, I did hear from an undisclosed source that Jim Harbaugh will be the next Speaker of the House. The big house, that is. A little joke by Jason. It works pretty good, Jason, with everything that's going on there, with the the house and with Harbaugh to bring it in and to bring it back to the big house. Very good. Another rib shot. Let's get it over to G.S. Scott. Jim is not going anywhere until he wins the national championship in 2023. All right, G. Scott. From your text right down there to the football office, let's go. Here's a common theme here today. The NCAA is a joke. At North Carolina, players don't even go to class. Mark, time for Ward to grow a set and fight this BS. COVID year was a mess, and the NCAA was and is always a reactive group of underachievers. Well, you mentioned Ward, and Ward Manuel has released a statement over the last hour or so. So I'm going to say that this is breaking news. Let me read what Ward Manuel had to say. Maybe he is, Mark, growing a set. Let's see. I got the quote right here. He's saying that the Michigan will continue to cooperate with the NCAA. Quote, this is Ward Manuel. Yesterday, we received draft allegations from the NCAA regarding our football program. We have cooperated and will continue to cooperate with this investigation. Out of respect to the NCAA enforcement process, we will not offer further comments. There we go. There's the statement from Ward. I don't know about fighting it, like getting it to go away, fighting it, how to get that level one where I would think, like I was just thinking about this. What's the quickest way that Michigan could just, accept their punishment, serve their time, whatever you want to say, and try to get this to go away as fast as possible. It would not be doing what you're talking about and fighting it. Like they have the letters of they have the letters of contents of the allegations and all of this. They got the draft, and they can say, let's have Jim Harbaugh just write an apology about him, not cooperating. Hey, NCAA, I'm really sorry that I did that. Anything that you need to know and want to know in the future, I'm here for you. Jim Harbaugh. I think that's the way they go about it. I mean, fighting it because he, was hanging up the phone or whatever, not cooperating. You have to cooperate with the NCAA. Now, you can say, well, what are you talking about? They're a joke. We just talked about paying the players. You got to be able to prove that. They have somebody, the NCAA, who turned Michigan in, a former staffer, it is believed. And about these, and then the part that's unclear, what Michigan coughed up themselves in self-reporting, and then what the former staffer had to say. And, from that situation, and then over the top with what's going on, I think, Michigan wants to make this go away as quick as possible. They certainly don't want their coach getting suspended. And again, most of this is an embarrassment. Jim Harbaugh did not have this on his resume. Now it is stained. And I'm sure he's not happy about that. Nobody would be. You've got a clean sheet, and now all of a sudden, you got a jacket, you open it up, right there staring at you, boom. Reprimand or NCAA investigation, level 1. You don't want that. And then overall, to the football program, of course, it's going to be used against Michigan, a bunch of cheaters, whatever. That's the part that's going to hurt. Not really, I don't think, what the NCAA is going to do. Certainly not a suspension. Recruiting restrictions, depending on what they are. But I think they want to cooperate, and they want to get this past them as soon as they can. And then, we're open for suggestions on how to stop people paying recruits to go to their school. Like, I haven't really heard any good ones. It's very hard to do. It goes back even when, you couldn't pay the players. They would do the same thing. They would be like, where did you get this $200,000? My uncle gave it to me. Okay. They didn't say that North Carolina gave it to them. The only time that you got busted was when the FBI got involved and you had, subpoena power back with the Ed Martin situation with Chris Webber. Chris Webber, lied through his teeth. They put him up on the stand and they're like, "You're going to go to jail unless you tell us the truth." He's like, "All right, I took 280,000 from Ed Martin. That was the pocket change I was talking about. Okay, we'll get a plea deal." FBI with Kansas, they have him on the phone with recruits with the Arizona. Look what happened to them. Not very much happened to Kansas or Arizona. Some coaches lost their jobs. Some stuff like that. Gary, between the Harbaugh to the NFL clown show and this now. This has to be directly affecting poor recruiting, right? Turned into a clown show when they should be excelling on the recruiting trail. Well, Gary, maybe. That's Michigan's rivals are using it that way. People that are recruiting against Michigan is like, Harbaugh's going to the NFL. He'll be gone next year. That's part of it. When you flirt with the NFL, that is always going to be there, no matter if you say it's a one-time deal or not. People don't believe it now, even after the statement. Hell, I didn't believe it yesterday. So could it be affecting recruiting? It could. That you're talking about it directly affecting the recruiting right now. I think what's affecting it, recruiting the most, is that Michigan is refusing to play ball with signing bonuses. I think that's the biggest detriment to Michigan getting 5 stars and top 4 stars. I don't think it's the NFL clown show that you're talking about. I think that if Harbaugh did not go and do anything with the Vikings last year, and came out with stronger statements, I think that Michigan would be in the same spot that they are with recruiting. Now, look, I get what you're saying. There's a chance. I'm giving you my opinion. If your opinion is what's preventing Michigan from getting 5 stars or doing better on the recruiting trail is that, Harbaugh has like 1 foot out of the door and the negative recruiting there and what's going on right now. Only thing I can do is tell you that I think it has more to do with the pay for play. That's my opinion on it. What are we going to do? Let's wait and see if they can get a 5-star. NCAA conclusion can take years sometimes. Yeah, it depends how much you cooperate. If Michigan wants to, fight it and everything else, maybe you're right. Urban Meyer took a 2-game suspension back in 2018 for about the same issue. It's a non-COVID year. This is just very interesting timing, don't you think? I don't know, the timing that is happening right now, like right before the championship game or when they had the letter to send it out there. I think it is interesting where if I'm the NCAA and my bread and butter is college football, I would like the focus to be on my championship game coming up this Monday. Like, did they have to send the letter today? What kind of motive was it? It was something with, Harbaugh and the NFL, to put that out there to try to make him. They don't want, NCAA wants Jim Harbaugh to stay at Michigan. So, that's interesting. I didn't think about, the timing. The NCAA, when it comes to, I know they get a lot of smart people, even though everybody calls them a joke and everything else. You would think that let's wait till after the championship game, then go ahead and serve those papers up. Now let's do it a couple of days before the title game. Okay, all right, whatever. I don't know. It's an interesting part, Mark, that I don't know. Steve, he never wanted to leave, just wanted to show his worth. The powers that be, don't want Michigan on top. I don't believe that, Count 22. The powers that be. I think the NCAA, Michigan has everything that the NCAA wants. So I don't think they're against Michigan per se. Why would they be against Michigan? Oh, Michigan's too much of a blue blood. Oh, Michigan gets too good of ratings. Oh, Michigan's like, come on. If Michigan wasn't a blue blood, if they weren't one of the icons of the sport, the Block M, and you were like TCU, you could say the NCAA doesn't want TCU in the championship game. They don't want TCU. You could make a case for that. I'm buying that, but there's no reason with the amount of money and attention that Michigan has. No, they would want that. So I disagree with that. I count 22. Mark, you can't have a Zoom call, but you can give your players Range Rovers and Bentleys after signing an NIL package. Screw this stuff. If you do it right, like if they have already signed, yeah, you can give them, you can have your boosters give them whatever you want. That's the name of the game right now. Look, it's always weird. It's always been weird that on one side you have college and student athletes and institutions of higher learning, and then they're in bed with big, high-powered money. Let's get as much as we can. Business, and you've always said now that the athletes are in this and they're getting a little bit. If we went back to some of the old way where guys were getting all of this anyways, and it was just under the table, and when you start like these billions of dollars, I mean, like you're gonna have a lot of this. You might not like all of that, but that's part of it. And it's been going on. Now you see a little bit more out in front. Richard says, from too many rules to portal and name, image, and likeness, no laws at all. Who knows what's what? Yeah, I mean, there's little technicalities and everything else, but name, image, and likeness, it is a rule that you can't promise the players money to come to your school, but that's exactly what teams are doing. And there are teams that have elected not to do that, Michigan being one of them. I think that is at the front of this and the secondary rules violations and the level 2 turning into a level 1 with Harbaugh. Mark's talking about Tressel misleading the NCAA, and it took the FBI to set up Harbaugh does not operate below board. He probably just said WTF. Yeah, I gave you what I thought the scenario is. I think WTF is right. I think he said, right, you guys are a joke. I'm not cooperating with you. Go get the guys that are really cheating. Could be as easy as that. Hung up the phone. And then, then the secretary said, you got the NCAA on line 1. He said, tell him I'm busy. And those guys are like, he's not cooperating. Well, let's slap him with a level 1 and let's see if he cooperates then. Let's see how he thinks about it now. That's what I think is going on. SEC, along with Disney, wants this Michigan CFP string to end before they win a natty. Yeah, well, Disney and SEC and ESPN is very powerful. So is Fox. They're very powerful too. And the Big Ten Network. And when you think about the amount of people, like the SEC and Disney are powerful. So is the Big Ten. And so is Michigan. So if you're going along the same lines as that, people are trying to keep Michigan down, I don't buy that. I don't buy it from any angle. There's no reason. Now, could the NCAA investigators not like Jim Harbaugh because they thought he was a little prickly with them, and that's what's going on here? He didn't cooperate? Yeah. I don't think it's because they're like, let's sabotage Michigan. Like, come on. And Michigan's got people in those rooms too. And I know this, like if you're, and I like people that have their maize and blue glasses on, that, it's all about Michigan, but it's not always everybody's out to get you. It's not always like that. Sometimes you're making your own, you're having your own issues and you have problems, and it's not people trying to undercut you, and it's not always a conspiracy theory against you, and it's not like Michigan doesn't get any breaks. I'll tell it to you, Michigan gets more breaks and is in better position than just about any college football team in the country. They have a brand. They are an icon, and they have everything and the power of the Big Ten behind them. They are not being uh, worked against behind the scenes or anything. There's no conspiracy theory there. I don't think so. I mean, it looks like it's very black and white that way. Do I also? But like, if you know a Notre Dame fan, like they'll be talking about the same thing. You want to talk to really an Alabama fan? They're kind of just in a slower little draw. They'll start talking about how the NCAA doesn't like them. That's the news. Every school's fan base thinks that the referees are cheating them, like there's a conspiracy against them, that the conference is against them, that the NCAA is a ruling body is against them. You really think they're against Alabama or Michigan or Notre Dame? I don't. I just think that's being a fan. You think people are cheating you and out to get you? Not the case. There it is. Why Disney? I don't know. Getting into the conspiracy theory against Michigan, I'm not doing it. Listening to another podcast host talk about Dudak but other guys being rats. Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff in there. That's out there. Do I want to? I'm not. Do I want to sit in here and start talking about snitches need stitches and all of this? Like, let's go after this guy. You run a big time program and guys move on. Not everybody's going to be really happy with, not everybody's just leaving and always, perfectly happy with the company that they work for. And they go back and they're going to be a little trying to sabotage a little stuff there. That's going to happen. Mm-hmm. That's right. Michigan is going to have, every team is going to have some haters out there. So that's it. Hey, let's get to some of those. Is this what we're going to? Anthony wants to talk about these zebras in the Fiesta Bowl. Who called back the TD were SEC. Coincidence? I think not. Yeah. Well, here, Anthony, the flip side of that is I can't do anything because they're in the SEC. But I can tell you from whatever conference they would have been through from and they made a bad call, you could have been like, oh, yeah, they're from the Big 12. They weren't going to be for the Big 12. Oh, they're from the Pac-12. Pac-12's pissed because the Big 10's taking their teams. Any conference you're going to be mad about. All of them. And I think they're human, and they blew a lot of calls. And you're talking specifically about the Roman Wilson touchdown. That's not the one. That's when I know that's just anybody that's just talking about Roman Wilson and Michigan lost the game because of the Roman Wilson being down to the one and then Michigan fumbling. That's just fan stuff. Yeah, there were a lot of bad calls in the game. The one at the end was definitely targeting. Michigan should have got the ball at the 40-yard line with 28 seconds left, and they should have had an opportunity there. Guys choke at the end of the game. The officials didn't want it to come down that when it was 100% targeting, irrefutable video evidence for as long as you're going to live. You could talk about that one, but you know what? They still needed some big-time plays and a miracle. You're just looking at it because they took the 6 points. You're looking at the final score. Cheaters! And I get it. I mean, I'm not like Anthony. You're preaching to all the people out there with the shiny robes that are like, Anthony's exactly right. Those guys cheated Michigan. What about the worst call of a late hit on a quarterback ever? That the TCU defender, when he hit McCarthy, he pushed him a little bit, like this. Is that they want to make it look good? What about on that final drive when they threw that one over to Kojo and it bounced off the ground? And they're like, we're not going to look at that one. Oh, they were cheating them. They would have buzzed that booth. Let's take a look at that one. Here's the secret, Anthony. Those guys are human. And there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of lights. And, those are supposed to be the best guys over there. And If Michigan would have won, you wouldn't have been talking about the officials. You talk a lot more about the officials when you lose. Whenever I hear anybody talking about the 2016 game, and they always talk about the spot, and I know people like to be cute, like JT was short. Well, okay, he could have been. That was a really close call. There were 4 or 5 other calls in that game that the officials, if they that were looked a lot easier that they kicked. But the last one, you can't really blame them. But I mean, you're a Michigan fan. What are you going to do? Are you going to go over there and try to look at it objectively on a spot? It's like, what are you talking about here? Is that what we're going to do? Mark, I appreciate you saying to like the stream and put a thumbs up there. It does help the show. When you leave a comment or a review on iTunes, I don't get as many of those as I would want. Not for somebody that's thinking about cutting down this show to a couple days a week and maybe just coming on, after the basketball games in the off season. I like being here every day. Can I get a few people to leave a review on iTunes if you just listen to the podcast? I should slam my hand down all day and tell you to comment, review, and like and all that, but I just want you to do it. Just do it. Let's stay here every day. Let's build something up. Let's take down that guy who's got, 40,000 viewers and, is playing the lowest common denominator stuff on the podcast every day. Let's not have to go to that. Let's play it above board and be entertaining with the Michigan fans. And then we could talk about, Michigan getting jobbed by officials in a spirited discussion. Nobody's with me. Nobody is with. I didn't think anybody was going to be. Mark wants Michigan to fight it. Yeah. All pub is good pub. It's an interesting line, Richard. I've debated that a lot with people. There was a Michigan antagonist. He's passed away a few years ago. Named Drew Sharp, who used to say that to me all the time when I'd be like, Drew, you're a predictable one-trick pony when it comes down to Michigan. You just bag on them in the Big Ten. And he said, it's really easy, and it works. He would say something like that. He would just laugh. And he would say, it's the same thing about the Lions. I'm going to predict, Drew Sharp would be predicting that the Lions are a joke and that they're going to lose to Green Bay, or if they beat them, it's not going to be in the playoffs and all the Lion fans, and he'll just trash them. And he would say, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And he would laugh. And he would say what you're saying, that all publicity is good publicity. I'd say, I don't know, Drew. I mean, like, if you had some story that claimed you were like some pedophile and then your name was dragged through, you think that would be like good publicity? And he would say, if it wasn't true, I don't know, like that. It seems like, this is bad publicity. Michigan gets enough publicity, and I don't need publicity with their coach getting a level 1 violation. I don't think it's good publicity for Michigan. I don't agree with that. But somewhere Boudini's looking down and saying, Richard is correct. And I'd say, Drew, you haven't changed. You still haven't changed. They've been dead for a couple of years, and you're still playing the same old tired angle. And he's up there saying it's working. All right. More feedback before we get to basketball. DI. So teams offering Drake May $5 million to leave Carolina while he's not even in the portal is okay. The NCAA is a joke. That's the line today. This is what they come after all the changes they made with NIL. Yeah, people throw around some of those numbers. They looked at that story. Drake May, there was no $5 million, but there's money. Yeah. Again, you can't do anything about that. Here's the thing about the whole, hey, Michigan's like, we're not offering any money. It's transformational, not transactional. Almost all fans in college football are like, it's transactional. Almost all of them. Now, and I think most Michigan fans would rather have Michigan play the game. You always hear people say Michigan needs to get their NIL deal in line. What that means is they want somebody to pay the players behind the scenes. That's what they want. There's only a few that are saying, yeah, let's just hold the line on you know trying to play it ethically incorrect, while every other team or most other teams are out there just picking up the phone saying, yeah, come on in, we'll give you the money, and they're soaking up all the 5 stars of the big times, and Michigan's over there like, well, look where it's got Michigan. When you play in a muddy pool, it's hard to get in there and say, we're just going to wear a white T-shirt all the time and come out. Look, it's hard to do. That wasn't a very good explanation. Almost all college football fans don't care that the players are getting paid now, and they certainly don't care that the teams are giving them the money up front. Michigan cares. There might be a few others. But there we are. So complaining about it all you want. They can't stop it. People don't like tampering, and, they have it in the NFL, but it goes on left and right, and they're not able to stop tampering. And for these college kids, like, you don't like it when you get tampered with, but these coaches that all of a sudden are like, they're out. That seemed like a little tampering what the Carolina coach was doing on the phone. He was tampering. It's okay if you do it with a coach, but when you start doing it with a player, it's like, wait a second, this is dirty. Look, this is big business. It's been that way. This is the way it's going. Before it was all like, let's work with agents and let's work with rogue dudes behind the scene in the shadows exchanging cash. Now it's kind of out there in front. Everybody's like, oh my God. I don't know. Is Michigan just went to back-to-back college football playoffs and they can't get a recruit to save their life, I think that's what Jim Harbaugh was doing. Like, no, I'm not cooperating with you guys. You guys are a bunch of clowns. And they're like, okay, Jim, let's not call us names. No, you guys are a bunch of bozos. Okay, Jim, if you keep that up, we're going to slap you with a level 1. Jim, he's hung up on us. Okay. Name, image, and likeness. Level 1s. Everybody kind of talking about the same stuff. Here's somebody saying that the Cade dropped that dime. There's always going to be somebody that's not happy that's going to be able to tell you. And look, you can make how many innocent mistakes is it? Is nobody else making any? With Michigan here, you got to cooperate. Should Michigan not be self-reporting? Should Michigan not self-report? And then should Michigan not cooperate when the NCAA calls? And should they start paying, players to get them in here? Like, they're going to have to make these decisions. Interesting. I don't think it's a big deal. I think mostly it makes for big headlines. No doubt, a big school, and they talked about hot water. Harbaugh, all of that. I think is involved, but I know it's not like look at the worst case scenario. The worst part about it is the embarrassment. So I don't like. To me, it's like Michigan. Whatever the crime that they did here, serve the time, and kind of take the punishment. Instead of being like, what about USC? What about Ohio State? What about Georgia? It's be like, what about Michigan? And work from there. What about Michigan? Count 22 wants to talk about that touchdown. Yeah, it would have helped. I'm not saying it would have helped. I'm just saying that I'm not blaming the officials for. I can blame them for kicking the call and it not being irrefutable video evidence. Every game I watch, almost every game, there's some kind of irrefutable video evidence, and the announcers are saying one thing, and then to top it off, count 22, the one that really gets me is when they bring the rules analyst in, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's a touchdown. That's a touchdown." That's what happened with that one. I get it. Both of the announcers were like, "That's a touchdown coming." Michigan's going to get that one. The rules analyst is like, "Oh yeah, that one's in." After further review, we're spotted on the one. I know. Fumble. I get it. I understand. Let's get to the big game tomorrow. Everybody's got to be fired up about this. It's Michigan and Michigan State. There's Hunter Dickinson with the bloody nose and bloody mouth, the villain. Oh, they're going to be giving him a warm reception, the Izzone, tomorrow at 2:30. You're going to be watching this game. Let's go. Yesterday I mentioned that, Michigan back in the day, because of the bloody nose and everything with Hunter Dickinson, that, Michigan back in the day, they had the lane. It was called Bloody Nose Lane. Well, I looked it up. I referenced the 70s. This is actually from the 60s. And this is from a Sports Illustrated story. And the title was Down Bloody Nose Lane. Michigan players have their own term for the route they take to the basket. And they took it often and successfully to beat Ohio State and lead the Big Ten back in 1964. And they used it like they were tough. They were going to drive the lane and they were going to take the contact. And they are also going to be tough and defend the lane with opponents in there. And it's kind of like, hey, you got to be willing to bloody up your nose, whether you're on offense or on defense. Bloody nose lane. That's what I was reminded of. So I wasn't all that off. I was, 6 years off. That's it. Okay, the final words come from the people. Andres, referees. Count 22 wants to talk more about the touchdowns and the Fiesta Bowl taken off the board. NCAA blanked over Harbaugh. That's from Malachi. Mark, what are the ramifications for refs making egregious calls during a game? Who investigates? Disciplinary actions. I'm out of my element here. Is there a process, a governing body? Yeah, well, they don't look at it like disciplinary action or investigate. They review every game, and you get a grade when you are an official after the fact and what they think. Now, I would have think that would be a pretty messy card for those officials in the Fiesta Bowl. They missed some spots. The Wilson, the late hits. I mean, there was a bunch of them out there. They didn't do a very good job. The targeting at the end, they just let go by because they didn't want to be involved in that. They kicked it. They kicked a lot of calls. But when you get to the point where it was the semifinal, there were only 2 games. So those were the best 2 crews that the NCAA could come up with. Now, what they can do is you can make those guys full-time. You got to spend some money where these guys can be looking at film. They can be down on the practice field. They can go through different situations. They can look at targeting and they could get a lot better. But the NCAA doesn't want to spend that money. It was always, it was probably about 10 years ago. You see him, he's one of those rules analysts now, Gene Steratore. He's always he was the dude that used that piece of paper in the NFL, to mark the first down. Steratore would be working a game, and then, next week you'd be watching a basketball game, and there he was, working a basketball game. They can do a better job, but they have refused to. They need to be more transparent. I don't think that they need to be transparent where they need to put the grading card out there about these officials, but they need to be transparent where why they're putting a certain crew in the position, saying, hey, these are the guys that graded out. These are the why that they're here. I don't think they need to, the fans do it themselves where they look at the resume and it's like, hey, wait a second, that guy was born in Ohio. Like they did back in 2016. And, you had some of these, local Michigan broadcasters that saw one write in a column, that it was the worst. The Michigan fans lapped it up. I don't think that there was, I don't think there was a grand conspiracy in that game either. I got news for you. I know that it can happen, but there's no ramifications. I think they look at it and they get downgraded. And when it comes to the next assignment, maybe that crew next year will be working the Tony Tiger Bowl instead of the freaking college football championship. Maybe they'll be, they'll send them and work the bottom tier of maybe they'll be working, Vanderbilt, Kentucky. That's going to be the best game that they're going to work. They're not going to be putting them in any big games because they got spooked. They choked. Those guys choked. So those are the ramifications. But what you'll find out is there's a lot of kicked calls and missed all throughout games. It's just that this one, when the lights are the brightest and it's the biggest game, it stands out a little bit more. And I'm not making excuses for them. They get an F for the game. I just don't think that they went into the game saying, "Oh, we're gonna F Michigan," or that somebody was telling them like, "Hey, let's screw Michigan over because we don't like Michigan overall. We don't want Michigan." I don't think they were doing that. I think what would be more likely is if they were like tried to gamble on the game or something and did that. But I don't think that they did that either. But I think that would be more likely than a power from Disney getting in their ear like, "Let's screw Michigan over so the SEC looks better." Come on. I don't know. But I don't people believe that. Oh, they're giving us some payback calls to make it look good. I don't know. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Oh boy. Some of these I'm not putting here. Logan indicating that DJ Turner just declared for the draft. That wouldn't be a surprise. Good luck to DJ. Pure Montana says he will not be drafted. Free agent contract lightly. I'll bet that DJ Turner gets drafted. Pure Montana. I'll bet you. I'll book that bet. Whatever you want to bet. Let's go. I think that'll be easy money for me. I mean, look, he could have made a call. Michigan to be still alive. They'd be playing Monday night if he was able to tackle Quentin Johnston, but he wasn't able to. He also runs 4.28. He's going to get drafted. Take it from me. Bit undersized. When you're talking about top flight corners, I don't think he's going to be taken in the first round. Now you're talking about, oh no, this is Logan. This is not Pure Montana saying that he was not going to get drafted. Premature draft speculation. Okay, couple more. Jesse, I think it might help Michigan. Michigan should break some rules blindly. Foul. The NCAA is getting Michigan nothing, while other school says screw you to the NCAA and get what they want. Michigan should break some rules blindly. Yeah, I don't think that. I don't see this as a positive anyway, Jesse. Where Michigan, is in the spotlight for, breaking some rules and a level 1 violation. I don't think this is good publicity. I think it's an embarrassment. I think they needed to go away. They wanted to go away. I think they should cooperate and try to move on. That's where I'm at. Let's take the last couple here. Oh, wow. I get to the bottom sometimes, and then here's Shane. I missed Shane yesterday. I got in there, and there was a Shane, and then I didn't even bring his comment up. The NCAA is the National Cockroach Blank Hole Association. That's what NCAA stands for. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that right now. What am I going to do? What's this one underneath you, Shane? There. Once you start putting words like that up there, look who followed you, Shane. Look what's happening. Otis making a prediction on tomorrow's game. Michigan wins by 10 and couches will burn into Sunday morning. Now, listen, look, that's some good, clean humor right there, Otis, burning some couches. They do that up in East Lansing. And If Michigan wins the game tomorrow, I don't expect Michigan. I don't think you expect Michigan to win the game tomorrow. But it's a real opportunity. The Michigan basketball season has been a disappointment to this point. They've won their 2 games to start out this year after losing to Central in horrible fashion, where their effort was questioned. If they've put back-to-back games together, that's been impressive. If they go up to East Lansing, it's not the greatest Spartan team. If they can go on the road and take down Tom Izzo and company, no question, biggest win of the year. And it would get a lot of people, rallying behind them, starting to believe in the team. Buy him some goodwill. Let's go. Uh-oh. Yeah, so, winning the game would be really nice. Like Pure Montana thinks that the Spartans are going down. Jawan and Izzo are going to get into it tomorrow. Yeah. Okay. It's must watch. Oh yeah. I didn't even say this week when I played the video. I thought I was taking the sound down so you didn't hear the guy that was working on the podcast with Hunter Dickinson drop an F-bomb, but I didn't do a very good job because I listened back to it and there it was. But what was I thinking? Oh, the Hunter calling out Wisconsin fans. The February 14th game, Hunter, I was, on one side you say, you got to be above that. Let's show a little class and everything else. But on the other side, you're like, hey, tell it like tell it like it is. Let's have some fun. Or, the one guy would say, this is what it's all about, screaming at the fan base and all this. What's the worst that could happen? So now fast forwarding into February when Michigan goes to Wisconsin, you got what happened last year with Jawan and their assistants with the slap swing and the suspension, and you got Hunter Dickinson. Boy, that there's a lot of attention it's going to be on that game. Izzo and Jawan getting into it. There's a part of you that's like, you wouldn't mind seeing that. You sit here. But Jawan, Izzo will be running around on the court like he always does. It'd be nice if, speaking of officials, it'd be nice to see them, see if they could say, hey, Tom, stay in the box, stay on the sideline. You spend more time out on the court than any other coach in the NCAA. But, Jawan's got to walk a little straighter line now because of his reputation for those 2 situations that he had. The other one, against Maryland. He can't get into it tomorrow with Izzo. What's he going to do? You got Jawan, you get a little Tom Izzo down here. He could give him the old Hunter Dickinson saying, you're too small. Hunter could be looking over. Didn't Hunter last year look over at Izzo? And didn't he say you're a little small guy or something? Or I don't know, calling people names and calling Tom Izzo names, Hunter Dickinson. Michigan wins by 10. Does he want to do that? Let's bring back the Bloody Nose Lane. Let's do it. Now we're getting to the point here. Andres just wants Juwan to clock Izzo. Izzo rockabye baby. I thought he was calling him a crybaby. It's all fun. It's Fred talking about Harbaugh. Talking about, the NCAA being clowns and a joke is the most frequently used phrase here today. Michigan should never self-report again. Look, we don't know exactly how it went down. What if it went down how I said? They had their things and the NCAA called up and Jim just didn't want to deal with them. Screw you. He's over there, they're calling. I'm not cooperating with you guys because you guys are a bunch of clowns. You would like to know a little bit about Just when they say Harbaugh lied, what did he lie about? Hey, Jim, did you guys watch? No, we didn't. We weren't doing we weren't doing that at all. Like, I would think if he was going to lie, I mean, what's he lying about? Jim, did you call those recruits during the COVID period? No. We can have the receipts right here on it. Oh, so was that it? Jim, Fred Jackson was an analyst and he was coaching the running backs. No, he wasn't. He wasn't there that day. They look back. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You self-reported it. I think Jim is upset at the NCAA because there's pay for play, there's signing bonuses, they don't do a damn thing about it, and then teams are going to self-report on sending a tweet out after midnight. It was clerical errors, which you make, and you're not supposed to, but come down on watching a kid practice over a Zoom more than teams throwing out $1 million to get players to jump in a portal and go to another school and tampering with them. It's like, that's tough. It's tough to take. What are you going to do about it? Now people are just going after Michigan State, which, I'm going to tell you, I like. How many times will Izzo blow a gasket? I say 3. I don't know. Pure Montana, one thing about Tom Izzo is that from almost the jump of the ball, he's overheated. He'll have a glaze on within 60 seconds. He will turn the shade of red, and he'll be pumping his fist, and he'll be out on the court. He'll be screaming, and it's the whole time. Tom Izzo screams and blows a gasket more than he just sits down there and watches the game or coaches his kid. It's all he does is yell. He's screaming at the officials. He's screaming at his players. He's yelling. That's Tom Izzo. Get some more bias and stuff up. There's some. Okay. Spartan Bob. Dennis just believes everything is as you see it. No, I don't. That's not how I do it, Jesse. But can I meet you somewhere in the middle where you think that there's a conspiracy against not just Michigan football, Michigan basketball, against the entire university, and that the other conferences are all in on it, or just the SEC, or just selected officials to undercut Michigan because they don't want them to have success? Just Michigan, not the Big Ten, specifically Michigan. And then inside the Big Ten, there's also a conspiracy against Michigan, that the officials just don't like the Wolverines, and that they're trying to keep them out because they're I don't know, like I don't believe that. And my argument to you, Jesse, would be that talk to other fan bases. This is how other fans, they talk exactly like Michigan fans about their team. They think that the refs are out to get them, that the refs cheated them. Guess what? TCU, they lose the game on Monday, the refs are going to be out to get them. Georgia, somehow, there's a conspiracy for the underdog. It just goes with it, and it's a really hard thing when you're a fan because it's all enjoyment. It's all for fun. So just get in there, pump your fist, and root for your team. It's all good. If you believe it, I'm all right with. I think most people do. They're even if they don't believe it, they don't care because they don't. Like tomorrow's basketball game. Let's just go through it. The refs are a joke. They're on the take. They're scared of time. That's it. Hard game to officiate. So I try to look at the other side. I think that there could be a case for some of that, but for the vast majority, and I think it would help for me to just play that side. Like, oh yeah, those refs were a joke. NCAA is a joke. Everybody's out to get Michigan. All right. I do want to tell people that tomorrow after the game, when the game starts at 2:30, 3:30, 4:30, about 4:40. I'll have the Michigan basketball postgame live. We'll talk about what transpires out on the court. Will Tom Izzo get a technical for running around on the court, pushing one of his players, something like that? We'll take a look. Will there be some bloody noses up in East Lansing? Will Michigan pull the big upset, or just to say it, upset? And down MSU, will the fans and specifically the players be able to behave themselves unlike the football team? We'll talk about it all tomorrow after the game. Everybody have a great weekend. I just appreciate you watching, listening to the show, and talk to you after the game Monday or after the game tomorrow or on Monday. Till then, have a great day, weekend. Bye.